Welcome, dear viewers of SSBC. This is Roundtable coming to you live in our studio headquarters here in Juba with me, Mayien Riam. On today's discussions, we are joined in by Honorable Denay Jock Chagor, the former governor of Jonglei State and the chairperson of South Sudan United Movements, one of the coalition party within the South Sudan Opposition Alliance, oppositions who are in coalition government with the government of South Sudan. South Sudan Opposition Alliance is called SWA, another abbreviation, is one of the parties signatory to the peace agreements that have positions in the government. The position that brought in Denay Jock Chagor as the governor of Jonglei State some years back before he was relieved. We're going to discuss issues affecting South Sudan, including the ongoing efforts of peace effort in Nairobi, the economic, and reflecting on his tenure in office as the governor. Denay Jock Chagor, I can say I'm proponent honored and exceedingly humbled to host you again for the second time on SSBC.
Thank you so much, Mayien. Thanks for having me, and it's good to be here with you.
You're most welcome to SSBC.
Thank you so much.
Now we will start our discussion on the peace initiatives. You know, this country has been searching for peace, a peaceful coexistence within the community of South Sudan, the political parties also to have peace and do the politics in peaceful manner. Now there is ongoing Tumaini Peace Initiative negotiation in Nairobi with all-out groups aim to bring all parties to the table. This is the reason why there is that peace initiative, to make sure that the all-out group are brought together in the same table like you and other political parties who are here in Juba to have the same inclusive governments. Now, how significant is this initiative for achieving lasting peace in South Sudan?
Well, thank you, Mayien, for asking the question. Personally, in my view, I feel that the initiative is a great initiative. Our country has been searching for peace, and I really appreciate the president for taking that bold decision on committing our country back to negotiation with the whole-out group. That's the best idea a president can do. And I hope that the whole-out group would look at it that it's not a sign of just us talking, but it is an initiative that can bring our country together and that can move our country together. But if they're taking it in other way, that is just another initiative of us talking, us discussing, no. They should look at it in a way that let us come together as South Sudanese and build our country up together and leave whatever happened behind. So I really appreciate that, and I really support it.
There is this peace agreement that was signed in 2016 and 2018 that brought in all the opposition group like SPLMIO and the coalition SOA and other political parties who are here in the government. That was the initiative. And against, there is this whole other group that remain outside the box. And do you think the engagement of the whole other group in this negotiation could finally put an end to the armed conflicts in the country? Do you really believe? Do you think?
Personally, I do believe that, in the sense that if we are moving with the hierarchies while leaving the whole-out group behind, in the other way, some people will say, okay, those people are insignificant, we shouldn't worry about them. No, no, no. As long as somebody's still alive, that person is very significant. So if we all come together, for instance, if they all come in tomorrow, we all come together, there's nobody who is a whole-out group outside this country. When we're all together, we can find out the way that we can move together. We can find out what is it that is dividing us. What is it that is causing this economic, difficulties that we're going through? What is it that is causing our diplomatic efforts? What is it that is causing our stand in the world to be shrinking? We can look at all of this in a very honest way, in a very proud way, as South Sudan, and have our patriotism together. But if we are doing this and one group outside there is criticizing what the government is doing, then even if we move faster, it would always drain us behind. And so this is why I think if they comes in we can even think of how do we make sure that the guns are collected in the hands of, civilians, so that we have a secure country where safety thrives, where we make sure that even businesses, investors can come in and not be worried about their own safety.
And insecurity.
When we do all of this thing, then this is where now you can see South Sudan moving forward. So I believe that if they comes in, then they can also make
Honorable Denay, you're the chairperson of your party, South Sudan United Movement,
Yes.
one of the coalition within South Sudan Opposition Alliance.
Right.
Now, when you look at this initiative that is going on in Nairobi, the Tumaini Peace Initiative, there is protocols that one day when they agree to come back to the country, they will not just come and go to their houses. They're politicians. They also need positions.
Yes.
They will need positions. And you came into the to the agreements demanding some position from the government. Now, what if later is your positions as South Sudan South Sudan United Movement is the one being given for sake of peace? How will you feel as a politician?
If it brings peace, I feel okay with that. If it does, and that is how every politician in South Sudan should look at it that way.
Will you accept to stay home to wait until election comes?
I would. If it does bring peace, I would. Let's look at it that way, right? Building peace is not about position. The position is a ladder to achieve peace. Okay? Peace is the ultimate, destiny that every country wants in the world. And so politicians come and go. Peace agreements are put together so that they usher the country into the way of peace. And so now if people look at it that, if this group comes in, they're going to take my position, and so what I have to do is let them not come. Then you're not building peace in this country. If there is any politician who thinks that way, that some of us can remain out just so that some of us can sit on the seats, that's not going to be building peace. For example, if we go for elections and somebody is not elected into the office, are they going to say that, okay, now because I lost election, then I'm going to destroy it all? No, that's not. You can't do that. And all of these positions that politicians are occupying right now because of the peace agreement, when we go for elections, some of us might not win some seats. And then what do you have to do? You have to accept the fact that if you lose election, you stay home. And then you can come back in the next elections. So this is why now we should look at it this way, in the way that let everybody come in. If they come in, we can sit together.
Honorable Denay, when you look at the RSS peace agreements, many chapters have not been implemented. This including the security arrangement, the deployment of the graduated unified force, the phase 2 of the unified force has not been taken back to the cantonments for redeployment. Now, how possible will this Tumaini Peace Initiative make impacts on people of South Sudan if the current peace agreement is not fully implemented? You have arms in your party.
That's right.
South Sudan United Movement have arms. You have soldiers.
That's right.
Under your control.
That's right.
And now another soldiers will come in, plus the existing soldier, plus the organized force. How will you as a politician go about that? And later when you don't have positions, like now you're relieved from your position as the governor of Jonglei State,
Right.
maybe you're looking for a way to come in, and later you turn out that, since the government is not appointing me, you end up being a rebel again. Who knows? How do you think that this peace will bring peace again to South Sudan?
Well, it comes back to what I said earlier, that sometimes it requires a change of hearts. If you think for this country, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you should know that it's not all about you. As a politician, as a chair of a party, you should know that it's not all about you. Politicians, like I said, come and go. We should look at it in a way that this agreement is all about bringing all of us together. This agreement, even the anarchists you asked about the unification of forces. You asked about cantonment. It is stipulated in the agreement. And the parties have been working on it. I gave an interview about going for election, even if we do not entirely implement the whole chapter of our RRS. For example, let me take you back. The CPA that bring us to our country. Do you know that there is not 100% implemented by Sudan? And then we end up having our country. Should we go back and say that, okay, it must be implemented fully? Okay, no. This is how we need to look at this here. Let's give a proposal that let the parties sit. Let's look at how much did we implement on the unification of forces. Let's look at how much have we done on the permanent constitution. Let's look at all the chapters that are not implemented yet. Let's look at all the chapters that have been implemented yet. And the high-level team sat and looked into it, and that's what led to the extension. Okay, so we can look at things that we can do now. We can look at things that we can do after elections. So all about finding ways to bring our country together, to go to an election, and to have,
you mentioned, you mentioned.
So if we don't do that, for example, let me say, if somebody say that unless I see the unification of forces is done completely, unless I see the refugees repatriated back into the country, unless I see the permanent constitution is completely done, unless I see all of this done, then now is where I can take the step. What you're doing, you want this country to remain put in this crisis, you want this country to not move forward, and you want this country to go back into the shadow of, darkness. This is basically what it is.
Okay.
So we should be flexible in
yes,
what we can do now.
I know that, Denay, I know that now you mentioned something about the CFA, the Comprehensive Peace Agreement that brought in our country independence, referendums, then we talk about this one. And you still have harms under your responsibility. As a politician, will you accept integration of your harms to the SSPDF willingly, and they have high ranks officers? How will you
there is an arrangement going on right now where the structure has been put in place, from the army to all the armed forces, right, to the national security, wildlife, all of them, and even ranks is going to be divided to like 8 parties, all of that. So everybody have accepted. I have accepted, and pretty much all the parties have accepted.
Because all the officers you have, accepted the percentage you have.
Everybody have accepted it. We have. And now what we're waiting for is let's have the logistics so that we put all the unified forces together.
Okay.
SPLM-IO have accepted it, SAWA, all the parties within SAWA all accepted it, SPLM have accepted it. So we are all moving in that right direction. The problem here, one problem here? Economic difficulties in the country, which we didn't see it coming. I think many people did not know that the oil would be shut down because of the consequences of the Sudan war. Now it's become the reality, right? We're facing with a different reality now. So now they will drill back the speed in which we could have gone to. That's why when the extension was made, these are the things that was considered, that the unification of forces have to be done, then permanent constitutions, all of that was looked at. And we're all waiting for it. As I speak here, I'm waiting for it. It should be done.
Denay, let's go to elections. Suppose this country should go for election by this December, if I'm not wrong. But fortunately, the parties agree to extend for another 2 years, 24 months, which is going to be till December 2026. Now, knowing that the election has been extensions, decision that has both as positive impacts and the negative impacts, because people accept it, and at the end of the day also, they criticize that this decision that has been taken by political parties is not supposed to be. Now, what is your perspective on this extension?
Well, my perspective on extension is that, number one, we should speed up to make sure that all of these prerequisites that need to be implemented, which led us to extend the transitional period, we should speed up to make sure that we don't even look back or don't even think for another extension. Because I can say, that another extension will not be accepted, will not be acceptable. I'm sure many people can agree with that.
What if the pending issues are not fully implemented?
Then we are South Sudanese. We can sit and look at what do we do if the consequences arrive where we cannot implement all of this. Then we can sit together and say, okay, what do we do now? How do we do this? Or how can we implement it in a way that it can allow our country to go for an elections? The main goal for everybody should be that let's keep South Sudan together. Let's keep South Sudan moving. Let's keep South Sudan proud in the world. Let us not have South Sudan where the whole world is looking at us that, well, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do that, right? It should be all about us sitting together, working together, doing it together. If we have that set of, arrangement in our hearts, then there's nothing impossible. But it's just because we always run into this because there are some people who look at things that unless it goes their way, otherwise it shouldn't go anywhere. This is where the problem is. Even if we can agree on something, someone would say that it has to be on my term, it has to be what favors me. If it doesn't, then I'm not doing it. This is where the problem is.
The Honorable Denay, do you believe this extension provides sufficient time for the full implementation of the vital IPs? And when you people have enough time, you fail to implement. I have to say you guys fail to implement. Now you people label it to the economics and whatever it takes. Do you believe this extension would really give time to fully implement the pending issues, the unifications, repatriations, the raise of permanent constitutions? Do you really believe this time will be enough?
Well, let me start with your first comments that we have failed to implement it. I don't really agree with that. And this is what we've been hearing, in this country. That when the blame is cast, it's blame to everybody. All of you done this, or all of you done this, right? Let's take it for example. We are bringing, parties that were fighting themselves together under this agreement. Let's keep in mind that whenever we try to implement something, or whenever initiative is brought, a proposal is brought, each parties will take it and look at it their own way, in a way that favors them. The other one will look at it in the way that favors them. And then now we'll come together and say, hey, let's do it the way that the peace agreement says. In the course of all of that, it creates delay. It creates delay where each group will say, oh, if we implement this right now, we will be in disadvantage here, we're disadvantage there. That's because we're still having a mindset of not accepting each other, that we are one people in this country. If we do that, we cannot even go through this extension. We would have completed all of these things. But because we're looking at it that way, and that's why, we move very slow, because politicians and parties look at things differently than what is agreed on the peace agreement. That's the reason why we arrived at this. And so I feel that there's nothing impossible. Everybody have now feel the consequence of not agreeing with one another. Now we have seen it that the economic difficulties that are going on in the country is not bypassing anybody. People that feel like they were,
no, it's by
financially okay, now they're not okay. People who feel that, okay, they're not going to be touched by anything, now they know that they're being touched by something. Now we're, seeing things that we could not imagine, a year back. Now we're seeing things in a different reality now. There are some people who feel like, oh, the rest of the world is only supporting them, or that country is supporting what? Now they know that this is not the case. We're left alone, where it is us to come out of this crisis together. So I feel that in this extension, we can get it done.
Now let's talk of the fair, free, and credible election. Always the problem comes from such three things: fair, free, and credible election. This has been the major problem of every elections. I was hold this because in case people reach to the elections, because 24 months is not that big. In politics, 24 months is not big. It's not long time. It's just like 1 year is like 12 months, because preparations and even you need to campaign if you want to go back to Jonglei as a governor, if you want another positions, if you want to sit in the parliament. Now, as a political parties, as a leader of your own party, will you really accept to go for election without your arm being unified with other arm? Will you accept to go for election without permanent constitution? Will you accept to go to election without repatriation of the refugees or the IDPs? Still there is IDPs, you know that. Will you really believe that there will be free and fair election? 2026.
Well, let me tell you what I believe in. You know, I believe in having an honest dialogue before elections. I believe in having a meeting frequently, political parties meeting frequently to discuss what have been implemented, what is not implemented, and when is the remaining is going to be implemented. I believe in that. And I believe that we can come together to an understanding position if, in fact, that we cannot completely implement the remaining part. I believe in that we can have that dialogue. If we're all sitting in our trenches and we're just looking at each other from far, we cannot achieve anything. We have to come together and talk. We have to come together and decide together. And it should be brought in a way that brings our country together. I believe in that. I don't believe in that I have to get what I want 100% in the country. That's not, it cannot be possible. If there are some political parties who believe that way, they really don't mean it, to have peace in this country. Having peace in the country, that it sits together, and this is where now we can have free and fair elections. And when you asked earlier about free and fair elections, we cannot anticipate what the election result would be like, right? But let's look at it that way, okay? Any elections in any country, there's always some complaint where whoever lost will say, well, wasn't done well, or something here, or something there, or something there, right? We cannot say that we will not have people who will have those complaints. But would you tell me that let us go for election unless nobody would complain, unless nobody would raise any issue at all? If that's the case, we will never have election in this country.
Sure.
It will never happen. So those complaints will all be there. Then we should come together and say, okay, tomorrow, in case there is any election dispute, what do we do? Where do people who complain, where do they go? Let's have independent court that is independent in our country where people can go to and address those things. So it comes down to us having the change of heart and look at South Sudan that is something that is bigger than all of us, something that's bigger than all of our interests. And that South Sudan will always be there. Every generation will come and go. Next generation will come. And then whatever contribution we can do now, it will add to whatever contribution that the next generation will come and do. If we look at it that way, there is a lot of things we can solve. And this country can do so great things for all of us. But if we look at it in a way that it must be what I want, it must be, my way.
It won't take us anywhere.
We will never go anywhere. Because if you get it your way today, tomorrow someone else will get it their way.
Honorable Denay Jock Chagor, before we go to the next phase of our interview, can you tell to your colleagues, the politicians who have harms with them, about the Peace Initiative that is going on in Nairobi? What call would you give to your colleagues to ensure that South Sudan is a country, belong to you, belong to the other South Sudanese, and it deserves peace? Because look at the economy that is going. Look at the suffering of the people of South Sudan. What advice can you give from deep of your heart to your fellow colleagues who are holding the harms against the government of South Sudan, and also to ensure that peace come back to your people?
Well, what I can tell them is that let us look at South Sudan. This is the country that we are all so proud of. This is the only country that we will ever have. We're not going to move to another planet that we will get a new country there. And so whatever your issues is, I understand, the whole of group would say that we need to address the root causes. I understand the whole of group say that the Tumaini agreement should be a standalone agreement. It should not be added to other cases that we have. And that they said that, it should be the only agreement that, should be the new one coming in, things like that. So if we look at it that way, somebody else tomorrow would say that, oh yeah, I got issues. I had root causes that need to be addressed. We're going to be going through that cycle over and over and over again, right? I can advise my colleagues that let's look at South Sudan, that if we're not very careful, we can end up in a crisis where all of us will not know who to blame afterwards, right? We need to look at it that way. And it's not only the political leaders, it's not only the political parties, even individual citizens have a stake. You can advise whoever your friend, whoever your colleague, that let our country move forward. If we don't move together, then we're never going to achieve this. I can't go alone and say that I'm going to achieve it all forever. No single party or politicians that can try to do it all alone. Now there is, some kind of a stumbling block, in the negotiation in Nairobi there, where the whole lot of groups say that there were 8 or 9 protocols that they negotiated already, and they don't want to renegotiation. The Artigono team said that we need to revisit all of this. And then from their side, they say, no, we don't want to go back, we don't want to go this. They need to come together. Let's talk about whatever it is that divide us, whatever it is that keep the whole lot of group outside. What is it? Okay, we can talk about it. Because the people who are in the Artigono who are implementing RRTs, they did have differences. They still have differences up to today, right? They have differences even within the Artigono itself. Within each political party, there are differences. And are we going to have peace negotiation every time, every now and then? No. But we have to find a way that all our differences are very small. The biggest, obstacle or the biggest issue that we should think about, that we should really go to sleep thinking about, is how do we keep South Sudan together, and how do we keep South Sudan moving forward.
Thank you, Honorable Denay Jock Chagor. Now let's go for a short break. When we come back, we will look at the economic that our country is facing and your tenure as the former governor of Jonglei State.
Thank you.
Our viewers, let's go for a short break. We shall be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back from that short break. You're still watching Roundtable coming to you live in our studio headquarters. My name is Mayien Riam. For those who just tuning in, to remind you, as my guest in the studio is none rather than Honorable Denay Jock Chagor, the former governor of Jonglei State and the chairperson of the South Sudan United Movement, one of the coalition party within South Sudan Opposition Alliance. Honorable Denay Jock Chagor, you're most welcome back to the Roundtable.
Thank you.
Now, so let's begin with economic crisis of this country. South Sudan continue to face a deep economic crisis, including inflation, the dollar rate is high, unemployment, and resilience on oil revenue. What are the key steps the government can take to diversify the economy to ensure that we liberate these people from this economic hardship?
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for the questions. First of all, we know that our economy had been, and it still is, depending on oil revenues. And then the consequence here, in a short answer, is that because of the conflict in Sudan, it significantly interrupted the flow of the oil. Now, this is what we should have think about 5 years ago or 3 years behind, that in case the oil is not flowing, what do we do? How do our economy survive in case the oil is not flowing? In good examples, so we had, I think it was during our problem with Khartoum, there was a war in Heglich when the oil, was shut down for a while. That should have been a wake-up call at that time, that in case there is no oil money coming in, what do we do? That should have been the question from that time. If it was not asked then it should have been asked continuously. But obviously it was not. Now what do? We should end up, you should think about how do we make the non-oil revenues the one that is the backbone of our economy. And then by doing that, it's also connect with security, where we make sure that in all the 10 states, there are 3 administrative areas. Businesses should, investors, South Sudanese businesses should thrive and go to those places without interruption of insecurity, without interruptions of, those things. If we do that well, now we should not be in this situation that we're in now. We would have enough non-oil revenues that can support the economy until whenever the issue of oil is resolved. But we're in this situation now because the entire country is flooded with arms in the hands of civilians.